For all your t-shirt needs, check out TeePublic's Killer Selection. Follow the link in the description. Hey, what's up, people? Pizzal here, and today I want to talk to you guys about the upcoming Lionsgate 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray release for 1991's Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Now, this is partially going to be a discussion/review of T2 as well as a review of this release. And now, what can I say about Terminator 2 Judgment Day? It is, in my opinion, a masterpiece. It is an epic, ahead of its time, sci-fi action masterpiece. And also, in my opinion, I think it was the last great event movie that we've seen. For me, it was the event movie of my generation. Now, granted, I was 11 years old when this movie came out, but it just seemed like Terminator 2 had so much excitement around it, so much hype around it. It was one of those can't miss movies. There was no, we'll just wait for VHS. We'll wait and rent it when it comes to the video store kind of movies. This was a movie that you could not miss. This was an event film. I can vividly remember the first time I saw T2 and how in awe I was of the film. Not just the spectacular action sequences or the spectacular special effects that were in the film, but just how in awe I was of the storytelling in the movie and how compelling it was, how gripping it was, how there was such a sense of heart and humanity in Terminator 2. And it's a movie that I reach for on a fairly regular basis. I think I've actually seen Terminator 2 more than the original Terminator. I love both films. I know a lot of people out there prefer the original Terminator because it's a little more stripped down. It's a little more, low budget. It's a little more straightforward, whereas Terminator 2 is basically just, it's all out. It is hitting you with everything in the kitchen sink. It's I've heard people call it a little self-indulgent, but I think that's kind of maybe one of the movie's charms. I mean, clearly co-writer and director James Cameron wanted to blow audiences' minds. He wanted to give them a film-going experience that they'd never experienced before, and I think he absolutely succeeded with flying colors. Look at the special effects in T2 as far as the liquid metal T-1000 is concerned. This movie was made in 1991, and we've had such advances in computer-generated effects for movies, but the effects in this film, at least a good 90 to 95% of them still stand up very well today and are better computer-generated effects than you see in movies today. Big movies, small movies, it doesn't matter. And I think that, again, just so ahead of its time. As a matter of fact, on this Blu-ray, and I know I'm jumping ahead of myself, there's a making of featurette in which James Cameron is talking about how he came up with the idea of the liquid metal T-1000 being the villain for T2, and conceptualizing how he wanted the liquid metal to move, and then thinking to himself, well, wait a minute, I better check to make sure that ILM, the computer-generated effects team, can pull these effects off, or else, I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board. So, I mean, just way ahead of its time. And I don't want to insult you by going into a plot synopsis for T2. I mean, who hasn't seen T2? But Arnold is back. He is the Terminator, although his mission has been changed. Instead of killing the mother of John Connor, he is back to protect a very young John Connor, played by Edward Furlong in the film. Linda Hamilton is back, a very buff, very badass, very, you know what I mean, a very militarized, armed to the teeth, and a little crazy Linda Hamilton. And we have one of cinema's greatest villains, in my opinion, in Robert Patrick as the T-1000. And this movie, as I said, spectacular effects, spectacular action sequences, just some jaw-dropping action sequences. Yet it has such a heart and such a humanity to it. And a lot of that comes from Arnold Schwarzenegger. And yes, he's playing a machine. And yes, Arnold Schwarzenegger as an actor doesn't have the broadest range, but he does a lot in this film to make you really love and care about him and forget the fact that, you know, he's a robot. Edward Furlong, who this was his very first film, he had absolutely no acting experience prior to this, I think gives a fantastic performance. Linda Hamilton gives a great performance. Of course, I love Robert Patrick as the T-1000 in the film. You've got a phenomenal supporting cast. This is just a masterpiece. Period. Point blank. Terminator 2 Judgment Day is a masterpiece of action sci-fi filmmaking, and just a masterpiece in general. This is a great film. If you've never seen Terminator 2 Judgment Day, go watch Terminator 2 Judgment Day. What are you waiting for? Where have you been? Go watch Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Watch Terminator and then watch Terminator 2 Judgment Day. If you've not seen Terminator 2 Judgment Day, this 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray / Blu-ray combo pack would be a great way to introduce yourself to the film. If you are a fan of Terminator 2, and I can't imagine really anybody not being a fan of Terminator 2, this release is definitely something you want to look into and possibly add to your collection. Again, this is a 4K Ultra HD / Blu-ray release for the film. So to fully access the 4K Ultra HD, which is how many P? 2160p. That's a lot of P. You will, of course, need a 4K television and a 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray player. If you don't have either of those, or if you just have a 4K TV, the Blu-ray on here will suffice. I can tell you, having watched the movie on a 4K TV through a regular Blu-ray player, I've not upgraded to 4K Blu-ray just yet. That's the next step. I can tell you the picture quality and the sound quality on this release are absolutely fantastic. As far as the extras are concerned, we have T2 Reprogramming the Terminator, a brand new making of featuring interviews with James Cameron, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Joe Morton, Brad Fiedel, William Wisher, Mario Kassar, Robert Patrick, Edward Furlong, and many more. It's 54 minutes and 7 seconds in length. They discuss the rights issues that held up the sequel for many, many years, and how Mario Kassar came in and basically, Hemdale was the company that owned the rights to the original Terminator. They wanted a ton of money for the rights to make a sequel. They went to Mario Kassar, said, hey, can you help us here? Mario Kassar went to whoever was in charge of Hemdale and said, hey, we want the rights to Terminator to make a sequel. And that person said, okay, it'll cost you $10 million. So Mario Kassar pulled out his checkbook, wrote a check. There you go. Baller. Cameron and William Wisher discuss writing the screenplay and developing the story. They discuss the idea of the villain being made of liquid metal and how James Cameron had to confer with ILM first to see if they can actually do the effects needed to create the T-1000. They discuss how Arnold Schwarzenegger initially thought it was a bad idea to make the Terminator the hero in the sequel. However, after Schwarzenegger read the script, He was all for it. They discussed the military-type training Linda Hamilton went through in order to prepare herself to play Sarah Connor in T2. Robert Patrick discusses being cast in the film. Cameron discusses the casting process for John Connor, and Furlong discusses the auditioning process and working with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Brad Fiedel discusses composing the film's music. They discuss the stunts in the film. They discuss the special effects in the film. They discuss the film going over budget, and Mario Kazar called Cameron an expensive director. Thought that was interesting. They discussed the pressure to finish the film on time for its July 4th weekend opening. They also discussed the film's release and critical reception, as well as T2's legacy. Very in-depth, very informative, nearly 1 hour making of, all about Terminator 2, brand new. Anything and everything you'd possibly want to know about the making of Terminator 2 is right there. Next up, we have The Making of T2, a documentary from 1993. It's 30 minutes and 54 seconds. It includes interviews with Arnold Schwarzenegger, James Cameron, Linda Hamilton, Stan Winston, Edward Furlong, and Robert Patrick. They discuss the making of the film with lots of behind-the-scenes footage. Very nice, also very informative. We get 3 deleted scenes with optional commentary tracks. We get trailers. We get 2 different audio commentaries for the film, one featuring 23 members of the cast and crew. The other commentary features James Cameron and co-writer William Wisher. I listened to about 30 to 35 minutes of the commentary while watching the film. Very insightful, very informative, very technical commentary track. The two of them talk about writing the screenplay, developing the story, things of that nature. But again, very informative, very insightful commentary, at least for the 30 to 35 minutes that I listened to while watching the film. And speaking of the film, we get 3 different versions of T2 on this release: the theatrical version, the special edition version, and the extended special edition version. However, according to the release, for the best possible picture quality, they recommend watching the theatrical version of the film. This is an excellent release for Terminator 2 Judgment Day from the folks over at Lionsgate. Great picture quality, great sound quality, a lot of extras on here, including a brand new, nearly 1 hour long making of that is worth the price of purchase alone, in my opinion. If you've not seen Terminator 2 Judgment Day, this release would be a great way to introduce yourself to the film. If you're a fan of T2, you definitely want to look into picking up this release and adding it to your collection. I'll put a link to Lionsgate's website in the description. Go over and check them out. This release is also going to be released in a limited edition format that actually comes with an endoskeleton arm, which looks really cool. So if you are a really big fan of T2, you want to look into picking up that limited edition release of the film, including the collectible Terminator endoskeleton arm. That sounds pretty cool to me. Let me know all about your thoughts on Terminator 2 down in the comment section below. Do you prefer Terminator over Terminator 2? Why? Let me know down in the comments section below. If you like this video, please leave it a thumbs up. If you're not following me on social media, those links are in the description. They're also right around here. As always, thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys are all having a great, safe, happy, warm holiday season. Take care, and until next time, peace. Join the A Buck a Month Club and help support my channel on Patreon. Thank you to my current patrons, Turi Delamore, Farron Sutton, Jeremiah Lambert, and Derek Jana. Say hello to the internet, Jeremy.
Hello to the internet.